Hey, family. Just waiting for a couple of more folks because I don't want to have to repeat myself. We need to have a real honest conversation, folks. And some real bad stuff is happening, and we need to really have this conversation. First, I want to wish all the Muslims blessed Eid. I was able to spend about around till 4 o'clock p.m. on Sunday with my family, and then I headed out from New York City to Louisville, Kentucky, where I had the honor of spending time with Breonna Taylor's family, and also the family of Kenny Walker, who was her boyfriend, as you all know, who shot back at LMPD when they murdered his girlfriend, Breonna Taylor. And so I've been in Louisville, Kentucky, and then we are now currently in Indianapolis. As you know, just a couple of weeks ago, there were 3 people who were killed at the hands of the Indianapolis police, all in a matter of 24 hours. There were 2 young black men who were killed. One of them was Sean Reed, who many of you know FaceTimed or Facebook Lived his own murder by the Indianapolis police. A young man named Mikhail Rose, and then a young pregnant woman who died, and so did her baby. And so that's where I am in Indiana. We're going to also be heading to Minnesota. Many of you have heard of the outrageous murder of George Floyd. For those of you who are New Yorkers, it's reminiscent of the 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, of the murder of Eric Garner in Staten Island. So that's where I am. I'm in the Midwest. I got to mask people. I've got my hand sanitizer. I'm not going to let no pandemic stop us from doing what is right. We can't just be about it, folks, and be talking about it and posting about it. You got to be about it. And there got to come a time where we say enough is enough. I also watched that video of Amy Cooper, and I'm very happy to know that Amy Cooper, the white woman in the park who was basically calling the cops on a black man who was bird watching and practically strangling her dog, got fired from her job and got her dog taken from her, and her dog is also safe. So I just want people to, I'm going to start saying the real stuff right now. And I'm honestly in a point in my life where I don't care. You can call me a race baiter. You can call me divisive. You can call me whatever it is that you need that makes you feel good. I'm with it. I'm giving you free reign. It's a free country, freedom of speech. Call me what you need to call me. There's a lot of Amy Coopers out here. And I just read something really powerful from Ibram Zendi, who many of you know wrote the book Stamped from the beginning. He's a anti-racist academic. He's black, obviously, and has written some really powerful stuff. And I highly recommend that you read Ibram Zendi. And he just tweeted something that really spoke to me and actually brought back really bad memories for myself as well. And he said that Amy Cooper's, it always starts with Amy Cooper's, and then it ends with the Minneapolis police officer. And what we have witnessed in our movements, now that I know that Amy Cooper apparently was a liberal. So let's be clear here. Stop with the whole Republicans are the racist, the Republicans are the white supremacists, the Republicans this, the Republicans are the opposition, the Republicans are the ones that are bad, Trump is racist. That's a cop-out, because that's actually not in fact true. Racists and white supremacists are not exclusive to any political party. In fact, the more dangerous white supremacists and racists are the ones who are masquerading around as Democrats or liberals or are in our movements. And so when you think about Amy Cooper, before you knew she was a liberal, you may have in fact started saying racism in America and Republicans, and this is why we need to get Trump out of office. This is unacceptable, because that's what I was watching a little bit online. And that all was coming from white people, obviously. Because black people and other people of color don't make those distinctions. And so we have to have a hard conversation. And we have to go back to some of the folks in our civil rights movements that we claim to follow who told us that what's more dangerous than the Ku Klux Klan and the white citizens counselors are the white moderates. And also, I would say, the neoliberals and liberals in our movements right now. And Amy Cooper's everywhere. Amy Cooper isn't just in Central Park. Amy Cooper is in our immigrant rights movement. Amy Cooper is sitting at our refugee resettlement tables. Amy Cooper is, giving out masks, on the street corner. Amy Cooper went to the Women's March. Amy Cooper is all over our movements. And for all the white women who are watching today, it brings a lot of bad memories for me back from the Women's March, where when we, as women of color in the Women's March, were invoking racial justice, when we were talking about criminal justice reform, when we were talking about the killing of unarmed black people across the country, both men and women, I remember clearly when we started fighting for Chakesia Clemmings, who, as many of you know, was the black woman who was assaulted in a Waffle House in Alabama. I didn't see no white woman out there. Ain't no white woman was fighting for Chakesia Clemmings. Our social media got quiet. It was, anytime a police murder happened and the Women's March was talking about police murders, ain't nobody to be found, And there are very a very tiny few people, white allies, who show up for black people and who show up in particular when it comes to police murders. And then we have a lot of Amy Coopers in the movement who, the minute that you start talking about an issue that makes them feel just a little bit uncomfortable, the minute you start trying to talk directly to white women in particular so they can confront their own white womanhood, they immediately start saying you're divisive. And they will actually do, by any means necessary, do what they need to do to push out leadership of a movement if, in fact, it doesn't make them feel comfortable. And that's where I am in my life right now. And I'm actually sitting here in gratitude that I don't have to actually directly be involved in that kind of work to figure out how to explain, in particular to white women, why it is important for them to be part of the fight, in particular around criminal justice reform, and calling out police offices and police departments and systems that continue to subjugate black people, who continue to oppress black people. And so what's important in this moment is not to look at Amy Cooper to say, oh, I'm not Amy Cooper. Oh, I'm not racist like Amy Cooper. I would have, that would have never happened to me. And you got to sit and ask yourself some questions, because this is also about going deep places. Oftentimes in the movements we're a part of, we got a lot of white women that come to the movements. They come to the table. They come and want to, support the work that we do. They show up to some of our rallies. That's cool. I'm not saying that that's not something that's not welcome. But what I always tell white women, and I said this all the time to white women at the Women's March, I'm on the record about this. It doesn't require, or really, you don't really need a lot of moral courage to come out to a rally that says justice for this black person who's been killed at the hands of police. It really doesn't. It doesn't really require much courage for any woman to show up to a women's march. It really doesn't. That's just the bottom line. It's the truth. But you know what does require courage? It requires courage for you to go back and talk to your mother and your white grandmother and your white father and your white brother and your white uncle. That's the kind of courage that we're looking for from white people right now. We need white people to do the real work. And the real work is to go back into your own communities, for you to actually do the hard work to look somebody that you love in the eye and to say to them, we got to have a hard conversation. I need to have a courageous conversation with my white grandfather, with my white uncle, with my white grandmother. Even in the midst of this election, you see a lot of white women acting really self-righteous right now. How dare you say that you want to criticize Joe Biden? Do you want Donald Trump to be in office again? I'm not the one that put Donald Trump in office. I'm not the one that put Donald Trump in office. White women put Donald Trump in office. So when we have people online who act self-righteous, those women who are out there trying to chastise folks who criticize someone like Joe Biden to make him a better candidate, to make him someone that aligns just a little bit more closer to our values, and you start telling me, oh, is it because you want Trump there, and telling young people of color and young black people of color who are upset at this election and the choices that have been presented to us, those are Amy Coopers. Those are liberals. Those are not progressives. Those are not people who care about marginalized people. Anybody, any white woman who woke up on the day after elections in 2016 and was absolutely outraged at the election of Donald Trump, if you woke up the day after elections and were like, oh my God, my country's racist. Oh my God, I can't believe we put a sexist, misogynist, xenophobe, Islamophobe, anti-Semite, white supremacist, all of that in the White House. And that was your first moment of outrage. That's called being a liberal. That is called someone who was comfortable all your life until the day you felt like an injustice was committed against you. So when I saw someone like Amy Cooper, and I figured, and later on you learn more information about who Amy Cooper is, and there's a lot of Amy Coopers out there. And of course, the movement has nicknamed the Amy Coopers of the world Karen. And I don't know about you all, but it is not enough for me that Amy Cooper was fired from her job. That's not enough for me. That Amy Cooper doesn't have her dog. And let me tell you, I'm a pet mom now. And I know how important pets are. And I'd be really upset right now if someone thought that they could take my pets from me. It's not enough. And people may say, what else do you believe, and what type of punishment do you believe someone like Amy Cooper deserves? Amy Cooper needs to understand that she could have gotten a black man murdered. That's just the bottom line. When you are a white woman picking up the phone to call the cops, and then you are actually on video saying you're gonna lie, that is a recipe for murder of black men, and that has been the history of this country. And oftentimes it has been at the hands, yes, the physical has been at the hands of the white men, but it always starts with the white woman. That's really what it is. And we have a situation on our hands right now where we got to start speaking some truth. I'm free, and I'm going to say what I need to say, and what I'm so outraged about. And you know me, like when I got something to say, I got a whole flow going on. But I'm sitting here outraged. I was sitting with Breonna Taylor's mother, Breonna Taylor's sister. I was with Breonna Taylor's cousins and aunts, and they just lost their daughter because 3 white police officers started shooting outside a black woman's house. They didn't even know who was inside. It didn't matter if there was babies inside, if there was kids inside. They didn't care. They were shooting. I saw the bullet holes outside of Breonna Taylor's apartment. I saw them with my own eyes. I saw tears. I saw families hugging. It was Memorial Day, and everybody was posting how they were memorializing heroes and people doing all this heroic stuff. Breonna Taylor was a hero. Where are all the white women who are standing up for Breonna Taylor? Have you ever asked yourself, and I'm really curious about this for white people because I see them a lot in our movements, and I'm just in a very outraged state of mind, and I'm just trying to understand. I've been an immigrant rights activist for almost 20 years, fighting for undocumented people, undocumented youth. I have been on the streets of New York City. My track record is clear on immigration, and I will fight for the rights of immigrants in this country as a daughter of immigrants till the day I die, until this country respects the dignity of all immigrants that come to this country looking for a better life. And when there has been a call to action for, babies being separated from their mothers, which is an important call to action that I want you to show up for. I want you to be there for families. I want you to demand that this government bring families back together, that we free all of the immigrants from detention. I'm with it. And I want you to do that. Why is it that when there is a call for people to come out for immigrant rights, you'll get a lot of people to come out? But then when we try to call the same people willing to travel all the way to the borders to stand up for immigrants and immigrant rights, you can't find the same people to stand up for black people who've been murdered at the hands of the police. I'm just trying to understand, what does your mind tell you? Why does your mind tell you that I'm going to speak up, that I'm going to donate, that I'm going to stand up for, the unification of families and for refugees and for asylees, which we want you to do? But then you don't find, and I can't find the same people to do that for black people. I'm just trying to understand, what's the thought process that happens? What takes you through something that tells you this is the thing to show up for and this is not the thing to show up for? There has to be some sort of mind thought process that I want to understand, because I don't understand it myself. When I was in Louisville, there were 3 people, maybe 4 white people that showed up for Breonna, and everybody else was black. And I'm very proud for a couple of Syrian, Arab American Muslim sisters that showed up from the Louisville area. But I saw 4 white people there. Louisville, Kentucky got a lot of white people. And we're in a situation right now where we keep coming back to say, justice for Breonna, justice for Sean Reed, justice for George Floyd, justice for Kenny Walker, justice for this one, justice for that one. It's not somebody somewhere got to say enough is enough. When does that happen? And so I'm in a point right now where you're in a pandemic. And I know I get criticized all the time about it's a pandemic. What am I doing out in the streets or whatnot? Listen, that's just not how I'm built. I'm not built to sit in the house. I'm sorry. I'm not built to see things happening around me and be in the house. I'm a responsible, intelligent woman. I know how to protect myself and how to protect my family. But I'm not going to just be sitting around here while all these things are happening and just put some hashtag and think that that's okay and just wait for the next hashtag that's going to come. I'm trying to understand what white people in this moment, many of whom don't want to come out to protest, and I'm talking about the liberals now, right? Because the right-wing folks, right? The Republican one, they ready to go out there and protest because they want, America to reopen for them. And then the liberals are inside because they're worried about getting corona. So I'm just trying to understand. So since a lot of white liberals are inside, that's cool. I respect your decision to be inside, protect your families, do what you need to do. But now that you're home and you're with your family and you post your Zooms and you're calling your grandmother and you're all on these family calls, that's good. I want you to add something to your agenda when you're on the Zoom calls, when you're talking to your family members. You need to have these conversations. I'm also talking to the immigrant Muslims, the not black Muslims in the Muslim community. You're home with your family. What kind of conversations are you having? You saw a man get killed in Minnesota. A cop, actually 4 cops, but one cop in particular had his knee on the neck of a black man who was saying that he couldn't breathe. What kind of conversations are you having as a Muslim, especially when your young teenage Muslim kids are online watching this awful go down? Are you not talking about it? What kind of conversations are you having? Who are you calling? Who are we right now? I'm so outraged right now. I gotta learn a little bit more about George Floyd, but I'm sure somebody loved him. I'm sure he's somebody's son. He's probably somebody's brother. He may be somebody's partner. He may be a father. I don't know all the details yet about him, but what I do know is that he was a human being. And you know what? I don't care what he did before he got killed at the hands of the Minneapolis police. I don't care if he wrote a bad check, a good check. I don't care what he did. Whatever he did, he didn't deserve to die. You live in a country, and this is the thing about us these days, you live in a country where a white man can go into a movie theater, kill people, and come out alive. We live in a country where a white man can go into a Kroger supermarket, kill 2 black people, and come out alive. We live in a country where a white man can go into a black church and kill 9 innocent people and come out alive. That's the country that you live in. That's the country that you live in. A black man is allegedly wrote a bad check, and we watch his execution on social media. That's what's happening on your watch. You know, what's interesting to me is people, you know, will read a book or watch a documentary or talk to me about like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Ida B. Wells said this, and, you know, Ida B. Wells said all of that. Dr. Martin Luther King said and did all of that. Rosa Parks did everything. Dolores Huerta did all that you say she did. That was them. What are you doing right now? You don't think that the same way we talk about the civil rights movement, that there's going to be a day 30 years from now that somebody's not going to talk about you? What was your generation doing? What were we doing? What were we doing? You know what we were doing in our movements? We were being funded by white folks. And we were told that there's a line that we can't cross. I mean, I'm not saying we, because definitely not me, but, you know, in general. And there's a lot of people in our movement who are brilliant, who aren't able to go all the way to say what really needs to be said because they're worried about career opportunities. They're worried about they're not going to get speaking engagements. Linda, I may not get on you know, MSNBC anymore. I'm not going to be on CNN. You know, Sister Linda, like, we can't go all the way. Like, we got to be strategic and do all this stuff. People are dying. People are dying. Like, just in the matter of like a couple of weeks, we got Ahmaud Arbery, who, by the way, I make no distinction between vigilantes and the way in which they are believe that they are in control. I mean, you saw the text messages and the chat groups that the Arbery killers, right? The Arbery killers were involved. And it was like a whole thing between them and the police and everybody. Like, everybody was a part of it. I mean, we are in a situation where people got to do something. And we have to go through some sort of internal transformation. This is not just about we got to change the system. We know the system is racist. It's been racist since the first day that this country was founded. The first white people that stepped foot on this country massacred indigenous people, right? And so we're in a situation right now where we get it. The system is messed up. The system was never created for black people or for people of color. We get that. That's all it. And so we're in a situation where we have to get together, be united. We got to stand together. And I got somebody that came to say this on my live right now, and I'm not even trying to have this argument with all of you right now, but anybody who wants to come in here to talk to me while I'm talking to you about black people being killed at the hands of police, and you think that you could come to my live and start talking to me about how many people got shot and killed in Chicago, knowing that there are black people and violence interrupters in communities across the country who are working day and night and risking their lives to end senseless gun violence in a country that loves guns, and you want to come talk to me about black on black crime? Listen, hold on a second, because this ain't gonna happen today. This is not gonna happen today. Let's see how do I get, yeah, this is not gonna work. Listen, people don't test me today. Let me just tell you that much. You know what I was thinking about today in light of that? When you're young, you know, like, actually I'm out here with, you know, many of you know, I'm out here with Tamika, who is my sister. She is a black mother to a son who's going to be 21 years old, just like my son. We're the same age, and we have sons who are the same age. So Tamika is a black woman who's the mother of a black son. I am with my son, Lennon. Many of you know him. He is a hip hop artist. He is a activist, and he's formerly incarcerated. He is also the father of three black sons. I'm also here with Angelo Pinto. Many of you know him. He's also black. He's an attorney from New York City and was one of the chairs of the Raise the Age campaign here in New York. He's also a father of a black son. These are the people who are my family. These are the people that I spend my time organizing with. You know, these are people who I have broke bread with. These are people who I've cried with. These are people who I organize with every day. And these are people I'd give my life for, because I know they would do the same for me. So when I do the work that I do, these are the type of deep relationships that I have built. The question is, what kind of deep relationships do you have with others? If you're a white person, Are you the white person that says, oh, I can't be racist because I got a black friend? What are you willing to do for your black friend? What are you willing to do for your black friend to ensure that they don't die at the hands of police? And we've seen Harvard professors, we've seen nurses be murdered, we've seen, it don't even matter what kind of black person. The black person could be, you know, a young man on the street corner, or it could be someone who is a millionaire. It doesn't matter what their status is. It doesn't matter where they live, who they are. If they find themselves in what police believe is at the wrong place at the wrong time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So the question is, if you're going to tell me, but Linda, I got black friends, I organize with black people, what are you willing to do for those black people? Because some of you, many of the white allies, you aren't even willing to have a hard conversation with your white loved ones. I remember in the Women's March, when we first started organizing in the Women's March, and when a lot of black people were like, don't go to the Women's March. This is before the Women's March happened in 2017. But we went. We thought it was going to be different this time. We thought the, you know, Karens were, you know, ready to wake up and stop being Karens, but that's just not how it works. You know, who did we think we are? And so, we were trying to hear why women were there. So we started sharing. And a lot of women told us that they were there because, you know, their father, you know, voted for Donald Trump. You know, their husband voted for Donald Trump. So they were rebelling. They were rebelling against their loved ones who voted for Donald Trump. And their way to rebel, not all of them, but some of them, was to come to the Women's March. And that was their way to organize, to put forth their outrage and their despair around the election. And that's what happened. So a lot of the women who came to the Women's March were rebelling against loved ones who voted for Donald Trump. I don't need you to rebel and come over here with me. I need you to go back over there. Go back to your little churches. Go back to your towns. Go back to your communities and start having the hard conversations that you need to have. I'm honestly to the point where listen, if white people want to donate to black-led organizations, we welcome those resources, right? And I'm sure black-led organizations and organizations that have black leadership and are doing this important work welcome your dollars. But what we really need you to do is not to show up to the Black Lives Matter movement meetings or the local criminal justice reform meetings or the police accountability meeting. We need you to go back to your communities and do the hard work there. This is exhausting. This is exhausting. I'm not saying I'm exhausted because it isn't people that look like me. Ain't no Palestinians getting shot down in the streets of America every single day. That's just the bottom line. The Palestinians are getting shot back in Palestine, which is a whole other lie that needs to happen. So I don't have to worry. I don't have to walk out into the streets of my community ever fearing that I'm going to get shot by a police officer. I don't really have to fear for my son who, if you see my son, you know, my son is not black. And so I don't have the same fears for my child as Tamika has for her son. But that doesn't mean because I don't have a black son that I have no empathy and no sense to say, what can I do to keep my friend's son, my sister's son alive? So I want you to all leave here, especially white folks and people who are not black. Instead of telling me you got black friends and you're not racist and that you're outraged at what's been happening to the cases, I need you to go back and think about what are you willing to do for the black people that are in your lives. I'm asking you a question. I'm ready to put it all on the line. I don't care. I don't care who calls me divisive. I don't care who tells me, you know, anti-police. You could call me you can call me whatever you want. I've been called everything, sisters and brothers, everything. Every word you can imagine, I've been called, and guess what? I'm good. I'm cool. If that makes white people feel good to call me names, that's good. But what I'm going to be doing is I want to figure out how to keep the most people alive. And that means making sure that my friend's son can go out into the streets, go hang out, go get himself something from a fast food restaurant and know for sure that he's going to be able to come back. And we also have to figure out, and I'm still thinking about this, I don't know, we need a Karen legislation. I'm in there, I'm with it right now. That hold on a second. See, this is when people start getting me. Let me tell you, Ali, I don't know who you are, brother. I don't know who you are, but respect is a two-way street. Respect is a two-way street. And this is not, so because, you know, we got Ali over here talking about you got to respect the cops. If you are anybody, you want respect, you got to show respect. As a police officer, you want to stop somebody, you do what you need to do. You ask for what you need to ask for. We watched the murder of Philando Castile in Minnesota, because Minnesota ain't new to this police killings. A man who is a beloved in his community, who had a licensed and registered gun, because you're allowed to have one in Minnesota, just so you know. And he live streamed his own murder. He was trying to give his ID just like he was asked. And he still got shot. I'm talking about Ali Al-Awadi, not Ali Al-Amira. I know there's a lot of Alis in my community. So these are the people in our communities. Like right now, I got to find this Ali Al-Awadi, whatever his name is, and I got to have a conversation with him because he sounds like he's a young Muslim brother. This brother, the thing that I'm trying to explain to you here is that anytime you, especially as a Muslim, sit here and try to find excuses to justify murder, that is when I question your iman, brother. Because in Islam, it says if you murder one man, it is like you murdered all of mankind. He was murdered. Respect is a two-way street. You want respect, you got to show respect. I don't give a damn if you're a police officer. You didn't go to the police academy to disrespect people. You went to the police academy to protect and serve all the residents of the precincts that you are working at. That's it. That's all it is, right? We know a lot of police officers. A lot of us got family members who are police officers. This is not about individual police officers. This is about a system that allows police officers to kill black people with impunity and then have no consequences. And let me just tell you this. It's not enough for me when I hear that a police officer got fired. It's not enough because you know what happens to those police officers? They just go move somewhere else and might get picked up by another police department. They may go work in a security agency. So don't tell me that firing a police officer is enough. When a police officer murders someone from our communities, they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, just as if any of us committed an act of murder against innocent people. Black people, anybody who is murdered, right? Whoever murdered them unjustly, right, needs to be prosecuted. Police officers are not above the law. There is laws. There's a constitution. Those laws apply to police officers. Chokeholds are prohibited in Minnesota, just like they're prohibited in New York City. And it took 5 years for the NYPD to fire Daniel Pantaleo, who choked Eric Garner on video for the whole world to watch. Anyhow, I'm just here to let you know there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. And I don't give a damn about this election. Stop talking to me about elections. Because you know what? Breonna Taylor's mother wants to know why her daughter got murdered. She don't give a damn about no Donald Trump or Biden. She wants to know why the Democratic mayor of Louisville hasn't fired the police officers who murdered her daughter. That's what she wants to know. So when you have an answer to Breonna Taylor's mother of why the police officers who shot her daughter and why the Democratic mayor of Louisville hasn't fired those officers, then you start telling me about the Republicans and the Democrats. Because I was listening to Malcolm X today, The Ballot or the Bullet. And I want everybody to go listen to that. It's a 53-minute speech, and it could be literally today. Malcolm X could get up from his grave today and give that speech today, and every word would be right. Every word would apply today. And so we are in a moment where I need you all to go back to your communities, right? Go back to our movements. And I'm telling white people like this, you come to the movements that we're a part of. You may come and give your services. You may come over here and provide, and listen, a lot of you are good. And a lot of you have put it on the line. And I respect those who have put it on the line. But everybody else, if you wanted to know from people where we need white people, we don't need you in our movement. We have plenty of brilliant people in our movements doing a lot of great work. A lot of young black people who are brilliant, who are strategic, who have drafted legislation, who understand how politics works, We have young people of color out in these movements. We have our elders who are mentoring us, many of them elders who go back to the civil rights movement. They're all here. What we need you to do is go back to your communities. Go talk to all the Karens in your household. And I know you all have told me you have them in your household. So why do you come to our movements to do the work with us when the real work that has to be done is in your communities? And then I'll end by giving you this last question to really reflect on. When you say Black Lives Matter, when you post Black Lives Matter, what are you willing to do to make that true? When you say, Linda, but I got a woman I went to college with, she's my best friend and she's Black. What are you willing to do for your best friend? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up for your best friend? Having Black friends is not enough, folks, these days. It's just not enough. It's not enough to say you have Black friends. It's not enough to say you went to school with Black people or you work with Black people. It's not enough anymore. And I just give my condolences to George Floyd's family, to Sean Reed's family, to Mikkel Rose's family, to Breonna Taylor's family, to Ahmaud Arbery's family, to Eric Garner's family, to I could sit here for the next, Jordan Davis, Kimani Gray. I don't even know, sisters and brothers. I don't even know what to say. Tatiana Jefferson. We could sit here for the next days, weeks, months, naming all the Black people just within the mat. I'm not even talking about 40 years ago. I'm talking about like in the last few years. And so I'm asking you to really sit in this pandemic and reflect, and even this pandemic gives you a lot to reflect on. I got a lot of, white people who they be online talking about, I'm making masks. I know I know people's going to hate me after this. I don't really care, actually. Making masks, and I get it. Making masks is important. Giving masks is important. But that mask making reminded me of the hats at the Women's March. It was cute. It really was. Those hats was cute. Sea of pink hats all over Washington, D.C., all over the country. Those hats was cute. But those hats weren't transformational. Those hats weren't about ending systemic racism. And the same thing with people, particularly white folks who right now are making masks, which is important. I don't know, people need masks. And I know masks is part of, protecting ourselves from the pandemic. But there's just something about that doesn't go deep enough for me. Why is it that Black people are disproportionately being impacted across the country when it comes to even something like COVID? This is a pandemic. This pandemic is supposed to, a pandemic can't tell if you're Black or white. A pandemic can't tell if you're a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian or an atheist. Pandemic doesn't know if you're LGBTQ or not. A pandemic don't know all that. But guess who's dying the most? Guess who's being impacted the most? If you're not having those types of conversations, if you're not actually getting to that deep place, I'm just letting you know, once this pandemic is over, like, these movement spaces are going to be a lot different. Because this is like, there's too much people dying. Not only are they dying, obviously, of a pandemic, dying of lack of access to health care, dying at the borders, us letting our governments engage in war, killing brown people across the world, Black people getting killed and brutalized at the hands of the people supposed to protect and serve us. It's not all right, folks. It's really not. This work got to get deep. And if you're out here talking to me about white supremacy and using all the big words but ain't got no action behind it, you're part of the problem. I don't need people talking anymore. I'm tired of talking. I talk a lot. Trust me. I'm one of the biggest talkers out there. But I also do. And I'm never going to ask you to do something that I myself am not willing to do. I'm just not. The way that the systemic racism is being manifested in such a public way, and people just sitting around talking about we're in a pandemic. I literally remember just about 2 Mondays ago, I don't know if people remember when it was, because listen, all my weeks is, together, but 2 Mondays ago, I'm with a group called Until Freedom. It's a organization we founded together to do some of this on the ground work. That 2 weeks ago, it was a Monday, And we went out to the streets of New York City outside of One Police Plaza, right outside the commissioner's office, to basically demand that he and the mayor stop with the disproportionate policing of communities of color, particularly black people, in the name of social distancing. And as you saw, there were video after video of young black people being beaten up in the streets just for things like not wearing a mask or standing out, with their friends on a street corner. And so, we were putting that out, posting it, saying, folks, show up. Look, you could wear a mask. Listen, if you're not intelligent enough to understand how to engage in freedom of speech activities and also social distance and protect yourself, then that's your problem, not mine, because I know how to do that, right? And so all of a sudden we're saying, we're going to show up, bring a mask, wear a mask, we're trying to organize. I tell you the amount of messages that I got from Karens, the liberal Amy Coopers, who were like, this is really irresponsible. They're like, we should be protecting people. This is not the time to protest. When is the time, Karen? When is the time, Amy, to protest? The thing about it is the audacity that people have, to come and try to criticize or to tell people how to stand up when they believe that what is happening is wrong. And then we did the protest, and we went outside of One Police Plaza, and we got our friends, and we stood outside in a powerful way, got our elected official friends who are aligned, and put the pressure on. And guess what happened? Just like 2 days later, not even, it was probably like 36 hours later, the mayor put out an order ceasing the police department, or banning the police department from any arrests or summons in the name of social distancing. That's it. That's what happens. Organizing is what gets the goods, folks, not sitting at home. Okay? We gotta build power. We gotta do the work. And we could do that in an intelligent way, because people are dying. Like, I don't understand. I mean, the reason why I'm so outraged right now is because I get to sit at the feet of mothers in this country who've lost their children to police violence. And I'm a mom. And any of you who are mothers love your children. I'm willing to die for my kids. Like, if someone says, if I'm in a situation, I would be the first to take a bullet for my family and for my children in particular. And so when I'm sitting with the mother of Breonna Taylor, or the mother of Kenny Walker, who's the mother of the boyfriend, who's sitting with guilt because her son is still alive, and Breonna's daughter, Breonna Taylor, Tamika is the name of Breonna's mother. Tamika's daughter is not alive, and Kenny's mother's like, but my son is alive. She feels guilty, as if it was in her control. When we went to visit Kenny Walker, he was still the charges were dropped against Kenny Walker, and he was still wearing an ankle bracelet, like the monitors, in the house. And I looked at him and I said, wow, a black man who got up in the middle of the night, shot one shot, didn't know who was in his house, and he gets arrested. Has to do a perp walk outside of the apartment complex for everyone to see. Anyway, I just came here to rant. I just came here to say, start thinking deeper. Stop giving a damn about what anybody thinks about what you say. Don't worry about people's opinions. Form your own opinion. Understand that people's lives are on the line. Literally, people's lives are on the line. And that we have a responsibility. And you're either on the right side or the wrong side. There is no neutral place here. There is no place in the middle. You're either on the right side or on the wrong side. And I will say this, they can call me what they want, but I know what I'm going to be able to say. I'm praying to God that he gives me a long life, because I want to be around here for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And I want to be able to sit my grandchild on my lap and say, I was on the right side of history. When they come and ask me about fascism, when they come and ask me about the brutal killings of black people, and my grandkids ask me where I was, I'm going to be on the right side. I'm going to be able to say that I did the right thing, even when it was hard. And that's what I need you to ask yourself. Are you the person that when the minute you get a little uncomfortable, you walk away from the table, because that's what Karens do in the movement. The minute the Karen hears something in the movement that makes her a little uncomfortable, she's out. She has the privilege of getting up and saying, I don't want to be part of this movement anymore. My feelings got hurt. It's not about your feelings. It's about people's literal lives that are on the line. There are mothers who get terrified at the even thought or request from a child, a black child who says, I just want to go walk down the street to the park. Because you know why? Because it may be very true that their child may never come back. And so I got a lot of friends who are white. They're part of my circles. And some of them are people who put their lives on the line, and they've proven over and over again that they're willing to do that. But I say about 95% of the white people in the movement wouldn't dare put their lives on the line. They only do it when it feels convenient. And so anyone in the movement who's organizing based on their own convenience, it's not the place right now. It's not the place. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to be in a place in the movement. Yeah, you could organize with me or not organize with me. Because you know, Linda, I'll find my own ways to organize. I don't follow nobody. When I'm outraged, I know how to do my own thing. So I'm not, in a place where I'm like, I can't move on my own. And you may have to be in places right now in the movement where you're going to be challenged. And the question isn't going to be about whether I stay or you stay. The question is, I'm always going to be there. The question is, are you going to be there when you're challenged? Because right now, your lack of action is complicity. That's just the bottom line. Silence is violence. And that's just where I am in my life right now. You just sit around and you're part of the problem. And so this upcoming election, I'm just putting warnings out there because I'm just not, this is like a side of me that I haven't really showed in a really long time. I'm always, I grew up, in the movement. So I have matured in this movement. And, when I started in the movement 20 years ago, I was a young woman from Brooklyn. And so I would, I had all kinds of ways that I expressed myself. And ways that are aggressive, and ways that are Brooklyn. And so that's not for everybody. So as I grew older in the movement, I'm 40 years old right now. Remember, I started in the movement when I was about 20 years old. I was still a college student, and now I'm 40 years old. So I grew up. My kids grew up. I got kids in college. So I changed. And I evolved. That's how life is. That's how you are. People evolve. And so I got into a different place now in my life. And, I did everything that I could. I tried to bring people along. I tried to, have the conversations. Oftentimes, I try to take the burden off of Black people, particularly my Black friends and organizers who it's not their job to keep trying to figure out how to explain the value of Black life. It's not their work. The burden should not be on them. And I have been honored to take that in many of the spaces that I've been a part of. Which is why I get called race baiter and things like that. Because I don't think it's the job of Black people to have these conversations with white people. And because I'm not Black, I feel like I could be an intermediary. And I got into a point now in where I am where I'm evolving again. And I'm evolving into a place where we just can't play nice anymore. We can't console. We can keep, patting you on the back when you do show up somewhere and say, oh, our allies came. No, that's the minimum, the bare minimum of what you need to be doing right now. And I'm also going to say this. In this upcoming election, what I don't want to see, when Black people in particular are having a debate about this election, when Black people are talking about voting for Joe Biden, when they're trying to help us to rationalize that, you need to let them have the conversation, and we need to not be in that conversation. And I don't need, because the reason why Black people are going to have a conversation about the election is a lot different than why white people want to have that conversation. So what I'm asking Amy Coopers and Karens and white liberal women in this, and who claim to be part of the resistance. That's why I don't even like to say resistance anymore, because I'm embarrassed about some of the people that say they're in the resistance. And, you already know who I'm talking about. There'd be a couple of them out there on social media talking about hashtag resistance. Many of them who are women who immediately, the minute they got uncomfortable, they were like, Women's March, those white women. I don't need anybody trying to lecture us about Joe Biden. I don't need anybody telling us who to vote for and telling us that when we critique because we deserve better as communities, that somehow we're electing Trump. Like I said earlier, I didn't put Trump in office. White women put Trump in office. Even when we think about an election in Georgia, remember that. Stacey Abrams wins the Georgia Democratic primary, and then Kemp wins the governorship. You know how that happened? It wasn't the Muslims in Georgia that made that happen. It wasn't the black people in Georgia that made that happen. It was 76% of white women. Remember, this was after the 2016 election. So instead of white women and white liberals telling us about Donald Trump and how bad Donald Trump is, trust me when I tell you, people of color know exactly how bad he is and how horrific his administration has been. I need you to go back to your communities and do the work. I need you to go back and do the work, because we haven't moved the needle. We haven't moved the needle. And in context of what I'm talking about, if you're going to run for the presidency of the United States of America, you better have some answer for me and everybody else, really, about what your position is on murders, police murders, and the cops and cop killers. I just want to know what the positions of the next administration are going to be. If Joe Biden is that guy, I need somebody to tell me what the position is going to be on, or what the work is, what the plan is, what the platform is around police murders. I just need to know what it is, because that's important right now. That's a very important point that we need to understand. And it might be out there. I'm not saying it isn't. I saw some platform, but I didn't see that particular detail in there. And so don't talk to me about this election, because Breonna Taylor's mother's not trying to hear it. She wants to know why the Democratic mayor of Louisville has not fired the police officers that massacred her daughter. That's what she wants to know. And when you get that answer from me, when you let me understand why the Democrats in Louisville, in a state with a Democratic governor and a Democratic mayor in Louisville, are not firing police officers that killed a woman who was the wrong target, I don't want to hear about no national election. Anyway, I say may God bless these families. May God give them patience. May God protect them. And may God protect all black babies, children, men, women, people in every corner of this country and every corner of this world. I'm going to pray, and I need you all to pray. I really need you, all of you. I need you all to pray. Listen, ain't no elected official out here that I know, and listen, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, and even my man Bernie wasn't good on black issues. Let's just be really clear here. Like, ain't nobody paying me, let me tell you. I don't have nothing. I got nothing to lose. I'm telling you right now, I got nothing to lose. I really don't. After I saw mothers lose their children, after you lose your child, like, what else do you got? What else do you got to lose? Think about that as a mom. If you're a mom, after you lose your daughter, what do you got to lose? I got nothing. I'm just grateful to Allah. I'm grateful to God for my children. I'm grateful to God that they're still safe and healthy. And I pray for that every mother, for every black mother, for every undocumented mother, for every mom. I pray that you never, ever have to experience losing your baby, losing your child at the hands of a system that's supposed to protect and serve you. Oh my goodness gracious. I always say, I was telling folks, and these people here in Louisville, they're faithful people. Kenny Walker's mother's a faithful woman. Tamika Palmer, who is the mother of Breonna Taylor, is a faithful woman. These are people who believe in God. And I told one, I said, in Islam, we say the dua of the oppressed, or we say dua al-madlum mustajab, which translates into the supplication of the oppressed will be accepted. And so I said, keep praying. And I said, we pray every day. Pray for justice. Pray for protection. And I will keep praying for them and praying for everyone, praying for all my people and for everyone who's ever had any heartbreak, who's lost anyone, who's lost somebody that they love. Anyway, this was a lot longer than I thought it was, but I think I needed this. I had a lot inside. You know, when we're around families, you got to be strong. You got to be, you know, you got fighter and warrior, but there are people who are losing their loved ones, and it's just not okay. And so I need folks that are not black to do the work. I need you to do the work. It's this whole be on Twitter stuff situation is not enough. It's really not. It's really not. I need white folks to go deeper. And when we, you know, listen, we hope to, you know, I'm not going to keep going back to this. I mean, I hope to win this election. Listen, I'm ready to have Joe Biden in the White House as my opponent and someone who I will hold accountable the first day he gets in there. But if we lose this election, don't you even dare come to these progressive spaces where black and people of color are. Do not come over here talking about Donald Trump got another 4 years. If Donald Trump gets 4 more years, it's going to be because white people and white women put him there. It's not going to be because of our communities. I'm telling you that right now. It's not going to be. The burden cannot be on our communities to keep saving political parties who don't do jack shit for our people. I'm just not going to. I'm not taking that burden. That burden is not going to be mine. That burden is not going to be mine. And it's not going to be black people's in this country either. It's not. So go do the work. White fam, go talk to the Amy Coopers in your family. Go talk to all the Karens in your family, the Kevins, the Kellys, whoever, whatever you want to call them. Go do the work. And pray for the families who've lost loved ones and start taking some action. It's time to start doing and stop talking about it.